go to questions. We will start with Tim Sullivan because he's physically here in the building, and then after that, we will utilize the hand raise function in the chat. Gary, whenever you're ready.
Well, I have to say first and foremost that anyone that was fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to get close to the field would have understood that the surface was incredibly difficult after the American football that was played on it yesterday. Both sides had a lot of difficulty in trying to manage the ball. They did it slightly better than us, but in all honesty, chances were few and far between for both groups. It was always going to be a game of character and blue-collar work, and we do that well. And the point out of today's game, the clean sheet at the end of a long, long road spell here, is something that I'm very proud of for the guys. Bit of rotation in the group. Extremely pleased to come out unbeaten and move on to Wednesday's game, which will be a really tough one, of course, against Orlando.
We'll go ahead and start with Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Gary, Hani on the bench, CJ not in the squad. Were those just rotation decisions? Was that kind of to help those guys get a little bit of rest after a busy stretch here?
I'd anticipated that the field might be difficult. I was really uncertain as to what degree, and I was shocked at the state of it when I got on the sideline. CJ was more a case of giving a flat out rest to. I think he needed it. He's been carrying a few lumps and bumps. Hani was in good enough condition, obviously, to be part of this. And had the field been in better shape, I might have risked him. But I just wasn't prepared to put him into that situation, knowing that the qualities he has were really not going to be seen on that field. So plenty of other guys that got a chance and great opportunities and more minutes for some of the forwards that haven't seen as many. And those guys put in a sterling effort.
Keep going, Tim.
You alluded to the quality of the field there. Was it just like the torn up from the cleats? Was it the paint? What were the parts that made it so difficult for the guys? And then maybe how is it compared to maybe some of the more difficult surfaces that Nissan has given you guys over the past year and a half now?
I've got to say that's the worst grass field I've been on in a long, long time at this level. The lines are not a problem; they're just acoustically bad. They don't look great. Obviously, it gives you a very strange dynamic of the field. It was the quality of the surface that was most difficult to deal with. The grass was too long. I'm guessing that it was left that way to try and cover up some abnormalities on the surface. There were huge chunks out of it. You could see when the ball moved that it was very unnatural. Personally, I thought it was underwatered. It looked firm. It was lively. And it wasn't helped by, quite a strong breeze that was whipping around the stadium. All in all, an extremely difficult set of circumstances to try and play an attractive game of soccer on. What we know is that if you're going to be successful, you've got to be able to adapt, though. And today, we've adapted in the right way. And we've got something out of it when a lot of teams, I think, would have come here and fought it.
One more, Tim, then we'll go to Drake, then Ben.
You mentioned, the opportunities that were given by the rest that Hani and CJ got. What did you think of the performances of Jonder and maybe a slightly longer run out for Ake than he's gotten in a little while?
Terrific. Listen, these guys need it, is for sure. CJ and Hani have been on a wonderful run of form, so it's very, very difficult to leave those guys out of the group because you realise what they give everyone and what they give the group. I thought Jonder's efforts were terrific. He had a real go for an hour. Bearing in mind he's not seen the field from the start for a good while. I thought his attitude on Wednesday night gave him the nod and got him in front of a couple of others who deserve it too. Daniel Rios can be very disappointed they didn't start the game. He's been great for us in 3 or 4 starts prior to Wednesday. But I just had a feeling that Jonder might give us a little something. Relationship with Randall's a very good one. A pair of them were wonderful. And then, of course, Aki gets more minutes than he has done in a long while, and he's still making that transition, not just physically, but he's also making a transition with the group. And whilst the surface was not ideal for anyone, I thought his attitude and the way he went about his business was wonderful for him.
Go ahead, Drake, then we'll go to Ben.
Gary, this draw puts you at 45 points so far, obviously, and at the end of a good stint on the road. What's the next chapter in terms of how you look at the remaining of the schedule? I'm sure you're probably adding it up into chunks. What's the next objective for the group?
Well, the objective is to make sure mathematically that we're above that line. I truly never take any game for granted, whatever position you're in this league. Every single team you run into has enough quality to embarrass you if you're not in the right place mentally or physically. We need the mathematical points to be in the playoffs. The Revs are the only one that have done it, so I believe at this point, whatever position we're in, once we achieve that at the end of the season, hopefully one that's seen some development in the group and we finish slightly higher than we did last year. At the moment, we're in a decent spot. And if you want me to chunk it down, we have two of the best teams, certainly two of the most capable teams in the league in our next two games at the back end of a very, very tough run. We have a 2-day turnaround. Orlando at home. It'd be wonderful to get back to Nissan Stadium where we've shown some excellent form. And then, of course, up to New York for a really, really tough encounter against New York City. So we'll finish this stint off of 5 away in 6. And then we get an international break to look at the guys and see where they're at. Hopefully get some recovery and then enter into the final stretch, which may well determine, I hope it determines the position we're going to be in.
Go ahead, Ben, then we'll wrap it up with Claudio.
Yeah, Gary, kind of piggybacking off of Drake's question, just how would you evaluate this kind of 4-game road stretch, getting, I guess, 3 results out of 4 games?
Absolutely delighted. 2 wins. Only beaten in 1. I think any group would be very pleased and proud of those performances and certainly of the points tallies. We've had to adapt to numerous different surroundings, conditions and teams. The players have maintained to a large degree a very, very good standard and level, certainly of focus and physical capability, which again is never easy. We've got, I believe, one more very tough stretch of 3 games back to back after the international break. And, that may well determine, what the end of the season looks like for us. Above the line, below the line, there's so many good chasing teams who are closing that gap in good form. And, we'll be absolutely, frothing at the mouth to be part of the playoff group. So there's still lots and lots of work to be done here. At that point today, we won't know the true value of it until the end of the season.
We'll go Claudio, then we will wrap up today's session with Coach Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Claudio.
Gary, one of the opinions that you hear outside the circles is that Nashville plays to the level of the competition because they take into account the position the team has against the opposition's place in the standings. But of course, I don't agree with that because it would be unfair to the opposition and the way they put their tactical effort in the field. But there's always something to learn from each game. In terms of what Chicago presented for you today here, that made it a very ugly game, to be honest with you. What's the lesson? What's the lesson that you and the guys have learned in terms of what comes next?
Claudio, the lesson is this: let's have a better pitch. I think both teams would have licked their lips playing against each other. We've scored 5 goals in midweek away from home. This group's happy to go and attack. you know, a plus 20 goal differential. We're happy to go and be creative. We're evolving very well. Today was not that day. It just wasn't. The circumstances were just not right. The conditions were not good. There's lots and lots of things to evaluate in this game. And in many ways, today was common sense football. If we'd have tried to be over elaborate, you know, play through the thirds too often, ask too many questions of the guys on a diabolical surface, we might have lost the game. And this is a good team, a very good team. Take a look around their group: Jimenez, Madran, Beric. These guys are top class players. I'm not taking any liberties with this team. I'm not taking any liberties with my team. I certainly won't take any liberties with anyone else's team. And this result will stand us in very, very good stead when we have to go away somewhere, probably in a vital moment. And we can refer back to this and we can look at what we achieved here. And we can say, you know what? We might need a little bit more of that again.
Last one from Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Gary, what are you expecting out of Orlando when you see them in a couple days here? And what is the challenge of preparing for them on just a 2-day turnaround?
Very, very difficult. Schedule's not been kind. The fact that CJ and Hanny have had a good rest will be helpful. I fully expect, unless there's some real difficulties, that we rotate them back into the group. I've tried to do my best with some of the other guys. We've got lots of lads that have done a very, very good job over the course of the season, that are ready and willing. We'll see how the rest of the players recover in the next 24, 48 hours, and we'll be ready. What we know is that, you know, we're competing against a side that are very much capable of being in top 2, 3, no two ways about it. They were beaten very narrowly, of course, yesterday in a tough encounter in New England, which I'm sure they've taken great confidence from, even though they've lost the fixture. They played well, missed the penalty. The team that we're going to play got a lot of fight. And they certainly won't want us stretching away from them. And they'll come to our place knowing that in our last running together, there's very little to choose between the groups. So the next 2 games will be really, really tough. Probably as tough as they get.
We'll start with Tim Sullivan, then we'll go to the next one. Go ahead, Tim.
Joe, it seems like we ask you some variation on this question pretty regularly, but when you have that opportunity at the end that you really have to make a nice play on, what is it that kind of allows you to lock in for that last moment after it's been kind of an uneventful game for you prior to that?
Yeah, it's just trying to stay focused and keep the end goal in sight. It wasn't a great game for us. Conditions weren't great. You know, we didn't play great, but we had a good opportunity to get a point on the road. So, keeping that in mind, you have to play the 90 minutes out. And I knew at some point I would be called on and was able to make the play.
Go ahead if you have another one, Tim.
Yeah, your team seemed to be kind of playing a style that you mentioned a couple weeks ago, I think, as being kind of similar to last year, kind of absorbing a little bit of pressure and trying to hit on the break. How did you feel that worked, and did you feel like it was kind of necessary because of the quality of the field that you guys are playing on?
Yeah, I think it was very necessary, to be honest. In the past few weeks, especially the Miami game, I thought we played incredible soccer. We were moving the ball really well and creating a lot of chances. And to be fair, at the beginning of the game, we tried to do it for a bit, and the ball just kept bouncing up, getting stuck, what have you. So we kind of had to adjust our game plan, and sitting back a little bit deeper and absorbing pressure and hitting on counterattacks is something that we're also familiar with. So it's nice to have multiple tools in your arsenal. So that's what we relied on today.
Tim, do you have any more for Joe?
Yeah, this will be the last one though. Joe, as you guys have just a 2-day turnaround, how do you prepare for Orlando, and what are you looking forward to in that game?
We're looking forward to being at home. We don't have a lot of home games left, so we need to pick up points there and make these games count, especially against a team that's in a playoff spot and playoff contention. So it'll be a quick turnaround. It's nice to have a day game for that, I guess. So give us a little extra time, but we'll enjoy getting to this point right now, and honestly, within the next few hours, our focus is turning to Orlando.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much. Due to time constraints, we're going to have to end today's session, but we look forward to seeing you Wednesday night back at the Music City. Take care, guys.